This is a genuine factory Honda RC500 that was raced by a world champion. It's the holy grail of two-stroke motocross. And today, not only are we going to get it started, but we are going to see it in action once again. By my count, more people have walked on the moon than have raced an RC500 at Grand Prix level motocross. There's only a small handful of men that have ever had the privilege and the honour of riding one of these machines. And by some miracle, today, my name is going to be added to that list. To be honest, I still can't quite believe that this is happening. And as well as my ride, we'll also be telling you guys where you can see this beauty in action for yourselves. So stay tuned, because that will be a little later on in the video. I am not worthy by a long shot to ride this bike, but this opportunity came my way, and who am I to turn down a once-in-a-lifetime chance to ride one of the most expensive dirt bikes in the world? Today, myself, Max, who was one of S.Briggs' riders, and Doug Dubach, we're all going to take a ride on Andre Malherbe's 1985 Honda RC500. Ever since I first laid eyes on a Honda 500, I've been slightly obsessed. I can actually remember the very first time I saw a big red 500. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and we were just at our local practice track, Washbrook Farm. Back then, unlike today, it was pretty uncommon to see a big bore Evo bike, or an Evo bike in general, out in the wild at the practice tracks. My old man spotted the beast that day. I didn't really know what I was looking at, but he went on to tell my brother and I the legends and the tales of Big Red. And ever since that day, I've been intrigued, interested, and infatuated with these big bore beasts. Over the years, Honda 500s have played a big part in the development of this channel. Back in 2017, we worked on our first documentary series with Neville Bradshaw, which we called For the Love of Two Strokes. Nev's exploits in those episodes on his CR500 created some of our first big hits. Fast forward 3 years, and the sequel series to that, For the Love of Two Strokes Season 2, kickstarted a new era for the channel after COVID. Nev taking the win on his CR500 against the modern 4-strokes in the first episode of that series is a moment that I'll never forget. That video right there set the stage for what the channel has become today. Over the past 2 years, we've been on a worldwide hunt to find the coolest motocross bikes on the planet. And we've been able to feature 2 different RC500s so far, and every time I just have to pinch myself to make sure this is all real. In one episode, we reunited Dave Thorpe with his World Championship winning 1986 RC500, and in another episode, we found and featured this bike that we have before us today. This is Andre Malherbe's 1985 Honda RC500. He was the reigning world champion at the time, hence the #1 plate. It truly is one of the most special machines there is. And here's a little reminder why.
I would say like the most recognisable thing about this bike is the tank, with the drop down and the cutout for the kickstart. Nobody else did it. Honda were the first. They realised low centre of gravity made sense on a motocross bike. Still to this day, everybody's trying to get low centre of gravity. Everything on this bike's handmade. There's nothing on this bike that you could have bought yourself back in the day, bar probably handle grips. All of the engine cases made of magnesium, titanium bolts. If you look at the radiator here, look at the attention to detail here, the way it's stepped to get the maximum amount of cooling in the space provided. The shock, it's what we used to call like the milk bottle shock, because it looked like a milk bottle, but it was nothing like a production shock. Again, what we used to call the Coke bottle swinging arm, because it looks like a Coke bottle. It was just that beautiful hand-formed HRC beauty. Again, all the plastic side panels, or hand-formed aluminium subframe, which the stock bike had a steel one. The little tiny foot pegs They're just crazy. For, you know, for what those guys did on these bikes, what are they? 1.5 2 inches long, they're tiny. Gear change, for each rider had a choice of gear changes to suit boots and foot size. Even the sprockets were made by HRC. Yeah, so at some stage in this bike's history over the last 30 years, our own Dave Thorpe has been close to it and signed the Rad Scoop, but the bike is not Dave's. This is Andre's bike. Maybe the Scoop came off of one of Dave's bike. I don't know, but this is definitely Andre's bike, but with Dave's signature on the side.
This bike took part in many memorable moments, and it played a major role in what is perhaps the most iconic moment in British motocross history.
British GP 1985, when Dave Thorpe went down on the first corner.
Farleigh Castle.
At Farleigh Castle. Dave went from probably having a really good start to dead last, and within 3 or 4 laps, David passed that bike and was in the lead.
If you had to put like a price tag on something this rare and this special, what are we looking at ballpark?
I would honestly put a figure between 150 to 200,000 UK pounds. That is definitely the most valuable dirt bike on the planet.
So theoretically, if you was brave enough, you could start that and ride the exact bike that Andre rode at that final GP.
I have no doubt that you could clean the carburetor in that bike, put fuel in it, and that's a Honda. Within 3 kicks, that would be running.
But this one, is it ever going to be ridden, or is this going to be a showpiece?
I suspect probably by VMXDM Foxhill time, that bike would be running.
And Dave was absolutely right, although his timings were a little out.
Since our last visit, the owner of this machine has had it recommissioned, ready for a very special reunion that we'll tell you all about later in the video.
But first, let's see if I've got the beans to get this thing started.
Okay, so this is my first attempt at trying to start an RC500. Not many people in the history of motocross have been able to say that, so I feel very honoured and privileged right now. Let's give this a go. Hopefully my big boy experience is going to come into its own. Oh God. This is not going well. Where's that decomp?
Stall it during the race, would you?
No, Jesus. Oh, that felt like it was almost going to go then. Yes! Yeah. Woo! Okay, so I'm about to go for a ride. I'm definitely not worthy of this ride, but I can tell you who is. I'm riding an RC500.
Before I begin my ride, let's first meet a couple of guys who certainly have some fond memories of this machine and who might be able to enlighten us on who actually is worthy of riding this bike.
So I'm here with 2 gentlemen that have very specific memories of this exact bike, right? So we'll start with Doug. You saw this bike race in 1985 over in California, right? What can you remember, and what were your, when you saw this bike riding, was you, I could only dream of riding something like that?
Well, yeah, you know, Bailey rode a bike very, very similar. I'm not sure the exact details, but, you know, watching him and Brock Glover battle, you know, for years effectively, and then going to Carlsbad for the GP, that was something that I did from a young kid, and you know, so those were some great memories watching all the factory bikes. But yeah, this one definitely stood out. You know, there's a lot of detail here, and a little, it was beyond its years at that time. So yeah, I definitely have some great memories of this bike.
And as a young racer, was the aspiration like for everyone in the pits to one day get on an RC bike?
Well, yeah, I mean, back then Honda was such a dominant team that, you know, it was what everyone aspired to, was eventually riding for factory Honda. So yeah, we all kind of had this image in our brain as we fell asleep at night to dream about being the next guy on that big red team.
And Dave, same year you saw this bike race as well, a little bit closer to where we are now at Farleigh Castle, right? So Tell us about your memories of this bike that year.
Yeah, so it's funny, me and Doug were talking about this on the way up, that Doug would have seen this bike racing just a couple of weeks, maybe even a week before that epic race at Farleigh Castle. I'm pretty sure Carlsbad was always around June or July, and they'd come back and Farleigh Castle was literally the next one. So it's crazy. All these years later, we saw the same things and we were cheering for the same guys. Yeah, that race in '85, I mean, anybody would tell you, just look at the YouTube videos. It was one of those defining moments of probably Dave Thorpe's career, you know, the last to first race. And of course, he was chasing this bike.
And tell us about what's coming as we stand here now, a couple of weeks, but by the time this video comes out in days' time, people are going to be able to see this bike in action again, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So 14th and 15th of September at Farleigh Castle Vets MX, you will be able to see Dave Thorpe in homage to Andre, who's sadly no longer with us. Dave will do a lap on this bike around the famous Farleigh Castle circuit, which will be, you know, something I want to see.
Oh, I think it's something I want to see. Doug, you keen to see that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got great memories from Farleigh. The first year I went there, I was told the starting gate we used was the original gate, and that, to me, I just went off down a lot of rabbit holes, how many big names had rolled across that gate. So, yeah, I mean, GP racing was something we all admired. You know, later in the years it flipped a bit, but yeah, early on those were all of our heroes.
And Dave, for you, obviously the origins of the Farleigh event started with you getting Dave Thorpe onto an RC500. What does it mean to you to have that kind of happen again in this new generation of the event?
You know, we're all really humbled that Dave would take the time out of his busy schedule to come and ride this bike for us. And as I say, it's in memory of Andre and his great years at Farleigh. And if you remember, Andre actually showed up in 2009 as a spectator, which I was just blown away with. So, you know, it's the least we can do in his memory.
We can't wait to see it. Make sure you're down there. We'll leave some information in the description down below. But now we're gonna ride this bike. So rock, paper, scissors, who goes first?
All right, ready?
1, 2, 3, shoot. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, shoot.
Yeah, few of them?
Yes!
Yeah, that's the only
Yeah, yeah.
Yes!
We did a touchdown, we were fine.
Yeah. Woo! I'm riding an RC500. I'm riding, whoa! Oh, I'm riding an RC500, man. Oh my God! Into the thorn bushes on an RC500. What an absolute honour and privilege this is. There's not very many in history that have had the honour and the privilege of riding an RC500, and I've just added my name to the list. But obviously I'm not riding it on a real track here, just around the paddock. I'm certainly not worthy to ride it around the real track. That honour is reserved for true gods of motocross, and we're going to be able to see a god reunited with this ride at Farleigh Castle in September. We'll see you there, and we'll see Dave and the RC500 there.
After my turn, Doug and Max were up next. And I think it's safe to say that Doug was a little more qualified than me to test out this beauty.
Wow. All I can say is wow. Just the sound the feeling of that engine, that's amazing. Better, above my expectations, I'll just say that.
I think the thing that was most surprising was how good the brakes are, the power. You can't get out of first gear around there. I'm actually really shocked how smooth the bike felt. Unbelievable. You just can't experience that. You have to have a go to experience it. Unbelievable.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. That picks up, doesn't it? When I came down, I was like, whoa, off the back in first. A bit speechless, very lucky right now. I know there's going to be a lot of people watching that are going to be extremely jealous, maybe thinking, I don't deserve it, I don't deserve such an honour, but you can't pass up such an opportunity. Thanks to the team, to the S.Briggs team for inviting us down. I'm looking forward to seeing this thing hit the track, Farleigh Castle in September. Oh, see you there. As always, guys, whoa, my name is Max. You've been watching 999 Laser. Until next time, until Farleigh Castle, I'll see you at the track. Oh my God.